I kissed my best friend 6 hours before her wedding, and she slapped me. The sting had long faded from my cheek. The memory hadn't. Now, before you start judging me, let me explain. Because if all you know is that I kissed my best friend the night before she was supposed to marry another woman, I'd sound like the villain in this story. Trust me, I've called myself worse. My name is Claire Kingsley. Most people call me CK. I'm 27 years old, own far too many black suits, drink unhealthy amounts of coffee, and apparently have a talent for making terrible decisions at the worst possible moments. The woman I kissed is Helen Parker, also 27, also the reason my life is a mess. Helen and I have been best friends since elementary school, the kind of best friends people make movies about. The kind that get seated together by teachers because they're inseparable anyway. The kind that know each other's coffee orders, passwords, favorite songs, and deepest fears. The kind everyone assumes will end up together someday. Everyone except us. Well, everyone except Helen. I knew exactly how I felt. That was the problem. Looking back now, I probably should have seen where all this was heading. The signs were there. A lot of them. Unfortunately, when you're in love with your best friend, common sense packs its bags and leaves the country. The first sign appeared when we were 7 years old. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Helen was crying, and Helen Parker never cried. Not over scraped knees, not over bad grades, not even after she fell off the monkey bars and broke her wrist. She was the toughest kid in our class, which was why seeing her sitting alone under the giant oak tree behind the playground felt wrong. I walked over with my lunchbox tucked under my arm. "Helen?" She quickly wiped her eyes. "I'm fine." She wasn't. Even at 7, I knew she wasn't. I sat beside her anyway. For a minute, neither of us spoke. Then she held up a crumpled piece of paper. A drawing. Someone had drawn a picture of her and written "crybaby" across it. I stared at her. Then I looked back at the drawing. Huh, she repeated. "That's weird." "What is?" I pointed at the stick figure. "It doesn't look like you." For a second, she just blinked. Then a laugh escaped her, a small one. But it was there. I remember feeling strangely proud of myself, like I'd accomplished something important. That feeling would become a habit, because making Helen smile quickly became my favorite thing in the world. I just didn't realize it at the time that I was in love with her. Then again, I didn't realize a lot of things back then, like the fact that the loud little girl sitting beside me would grow up to become the center of my entire universe. Or that 20 years later, she'd be standing at the end of an aisle, and I'd be the idiot trying not to fall apart. You know what the funny thing is? Everybody knew I was in love with Helen except Helen. Actually, that's not true. Everybody knew except Helen and me. I spent years convincing myself I wasn't in love with her. Because being in love with your best friend is inconvenient. Being in love with your ridiculously beautiful best friend, that's a full-time job. Especially when she's the type of person who collects admirers without even trying. Meanwhile, I was Claire Kingsley, the human version of a black hoodie, quiet, reserved, the kind of person who got exhausted after talking to 3 people. Helen? Helen could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 10 new friends, 3 phone numbers, and somebody's grandmother inviting her over for Sunday dinner. It was honestly terrifying. By middle school, we'd become known as a package deal. If Helen was somewhere, I wasn't far behind. If I was somewhere, Helen would appear eventually. It got so bad that people stopped asking, "Where's Helen?" Probably with CK. I called myself her low-budget bodyguard. Not because she needed protection, because it sounded less pathetic than, "Hi, I'm secretly in love with my best friend," and follow her around like a loyal golden retriever. One Friday afternoon, we were walking home from school when Helen suddenly grabbed my arm. Hard. I immediately looked around. "What happened?" She pointed dramatically across the street. Oh my God. My heart nearly stopped. "What? Look." I followed her finger. A girl. Just a girl, standing at a bus stop. "What about her?" Helen looked offended. "What about her?" "Yes, CK. Look at her, God. She is so beautiful. She is my type." I looked again. Still a girl, breathing, existing, waiting for a bus. "I don't get it," I rolled my eyes. Helen clutched her chest. "You have no soul." "I have a soul." "No, you're a robot." "I'm not a robot," I sighed. "You've been staring at her for 30 seconds. I think I'm in love." I started walking again. Helen chased after me. "Don't walk away when I'm having a life-changing experience. You're 13. Love has no age limit, duh. You don't even know her name." I shook my head. Meanwhile, Helen kept talking, for the next 15 minutes, about the stranger, the smile, the hair, the shoes, the possibility of destiny. By the time we reached my house, she'd practically planned their wedding. The worst part? This happened all the time. Helen had a new crush every few weeks. A singer, an actress, a barista, a girl at the mall, a girl at the library. A girl she saw for 3 seconds at a traffic light, and every single time she came to me. Every single time, because I was her person, the one she told everything, the one she trusted, the one who listened, even when listening occasionally felt like emotional warfare. A few years later, when we were 16, things got worse. Much worse. I was sitting on Helen's bedroom floor helping her study. By helping, I mean I was studying while she was busy doing absolutely everything except studying. She was lying upside down on her bed, scrolling through her phone. "Helen, exam tomorrow." "I know." "Then why are you watching cat videos?" "They're educational." I pinched the bridge of my nose. Then her phone dropped directly onto my head. "Ouch! Oh my God!" Helen burst into laughter. I tried staying annoyed. I lasted 4 seconds. Then I started laughing too. That was my problem. A few minutes later, she rolled off the bed and landed beside me. Her head rested against my shoulder, comfortable, like she'd done it 1,000 times before, which she had. Neither of us thought anything about it, at least she didn't. I froze like somebody had disconnected my brain. "Helen, you're crushing my arm." "No, I'm not. You are. It's comfortable, CK. Leave me and your sexy arm alone. She is mine to use for now." I stared at the ceiling. Lord, give me strength, because the girl I loved was currently using me as furniture, and to make it worse, my heart was beating so fast from the skin contact. And somehow I was the happiest person alive. Then she suddenly looked up. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why don't you ever like anybody?" I nearly choked. "Never met the right person." Helen narrowed her eyes. "Liar. What? You totally have a secret crush." "No, you do. You do," she gasped. "Oh my God. What? You do." I laughed. She pointed at me dramatically. "You blushed." "I did not. You did." "Helen, who is she?" "There is no she. There is a she." I stood up and grabbed my backpack. Conversation over. Helen's laughter followed me all the way downstairs. "One day I'll find out." If only she knew that she was the one. I was too scared to tell her. I didn't want to take a chance. What if we date? What if we fight? What if I am not a good partner for her? What if we break up and become enemies? New? I can't risk that. One thing you should know about Helen Parker, for somebody who fell in love every 15 business days, she had absolutely terrible luck when it came to relationships. Terrible. Catastrophic. Historical levels of terrible. Every crush seemed life-changing. Every breakup looked like the end of civilization. Then came Mabel, and for the first time, it was different. Helen met her during our second year of university. Mabel was beautiful, the kind of woman who walked into a room expecting people to notice her, and they did, including Helen, especially Helen. I knew I was in trouble the moment Helen called me at 7 in the morning. Nobody should be that happy before breakfast. "CK?" I pulled the phone away from my ear. "What happened?" "I met someone." "Of course she did. Congratulations." "No, seriously." I sighed. "Tell me." For the next 40 minutes, she told me everything. Where they met, what they talked about, how pretty Mabel's smile was, what she studied, the joke that made her laugh, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. By the end of the call, I knew more about Mabel than I knew about some of my relatives. And somehow, Helen managed to make me smile through the entire thing. Because that's what happened whenever she was happy. I couldn't help being happy too. Stupid. A few months later, they became official. Helen was over the moon. And when I tell you Helen was happy, that girl was glowing, smiling all day, singing in the shower, texting constantly, walking into walls because she was busy staring at her phone. And honestly, I was happy for her, at least in the beginning. Now, guys, let's talk about Mabel. Because that woman nearly gave me high blood pressure. And before anybody comes for me in the comments, no, I didn't hate Mabel, at least not in the beginning. In fact, when Helen first introduced us, I actually thought she was pretty cool. Pretty, smart, confident. The type of girl who always looked expensive. You know those people that somehow look rich even when they're wearing sweatpants? Yeah, one of those. The problem started later, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now here's where things started getting interesting. There was this Sunday, a rainy Sunday. The type where normal people stay home, drink tea, watch movies, mind their business. Helen called me at 7 in the morning. 7 in the morning. On a Sunday, for heaven's sake, she begged me to drive her to her first date with Mabel. I answered with the enthusiasm of a dying houseplant. Tea. Can you please drive me to the restaurant at my first date with Mabel? No. CK. No. Best friend, please. I sighed, because that one always worked. 20 minutes later, I was outside her apartment, driving again, like the low-budget bodyguard I had somehow become. Helen climbed into the passenger seat looking like she'd spent 3 hours getting ready. For breakfast. At 9 in the morning. For a date? I asked. She gasped dramatically. Love is a beautiful thing, you robot. I dropped her off. And because I had absolutely nothing better to do with my life apparently, I came back 2 hours later to pick her up. The second she entered my car, she screamed, "Oh my God." I already knew what was coming. The recap. The legendary Helen Parker date recap. The woman could turn a 1-hour breakfast into a 3-part documentary. She held my hand. "Congratulations. CK, be happy for your baby." I finally broke the relationship curse. Okay, I'm happy." Then she spent the entire drive talking and smiling and kicking her feet and replaying every detail. I listened, like I always did. Then a few months passed, and that's when Mabel started acting weird. At first it was little things, tiny things easy to ignore. Then one evening I was at Helen's apartment. The 3 of us were watching a movie. Well, Helen and I were watching. Mabel was busy glaring at me like I had personally offended her ancestors. Halfway through the movie, Helen laughed at something I said. Mabel immediately crossed her arms. I noticed. Helen didn't, because Helen could miss a building falling on top of her if she was distracted. After the movie ended, Helen went to the kitchen. The second she left, Mabel looked at me. Then she said, "You know, most girlfriends don't spend this much time with their partner's best friend." Girl. The way I almost choked. Then I smiled. Good thing I'm not most best friends. She didn't laugh. I did. That made her even angrier. Things only got worse after that. Every week there was a new complaint. Why does Helen call CK so much? Why does Helen tell CK everything? Why does Helen spend weekends with CK? Why does Helen trust CK with everything? And honestly, some of the questions were fair because Helen did tell me everything. She called me first. She trusted me first. That's just how we'd always been. But Mabel wanted more. More time, more attention, more space between me and Helen. And Helen wasn't having it, not even a little bit. Then one night, everything finally exploded. I was heading toward Helen's room to grab my jacket. Then I heard voices, not yelling, yet just tense. I stopped. Not because I was snooping, because I heard my name. That's different. "Why is it always CK?" Mabel asked. Inside the room went silent. Then Helen sighed. "Mabel. No, seriously, what now? You talk about her all the time." Helen laughed. Wrong move. Mabel wasn't laughing. "I'm serious. So am I. You mention her every day. She's my best friend. You call her every day. You call her every day. You tell her every day." Pho, that one finally got Helen's attention. I could hear it in her voice. "What exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't like it." "Don't like what?" "Her." My stomach dropped. Inside the room, everything went quiet. Then Mabel spoke again, softer, more careful, the way people do when they're trying to sound reasonable. "I love you. I want a future with you. I think you should spend less time with CK." There it was, the real issue. I knew it. Then Helen laughed. Not because she found it funny, because she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "No, Helen, no, I'm serious. So am I. I just want boundaries." "No, Helen, no." The answer came instantly, without hesitation, without thinking. "No." For a brief moment, my heart swelled. Then Helen continued and accidentally broke it. "CK is family." "Family?" Funny how one word can punch you directly in the chest. She's my best friend. Family. She's been in my life forever. Nothing is ever happening between us. I quietly walked away before I heard the rest. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at my ceiling. Family? Great. Fantastic. Amazing. Exactly what every woman wants to hear about the person she's secretly in love with. The relationship survived that fight, but not the others. Because there were more. A lot more. Mabel wanted more control. Helen wanted freedom. Mabel wanted answers. Helen hated being questioned. Every argument became a bigger argument. Every disagreement became a war, until eventually, everything exploded. I was watching a movie one night when my phone rang. 2:17 a.m., my heart dropped. Nobody calls at 2:17 in the morning with good news. I answered immediately. "Helen," silence, then I heard it. Crying, the ugly kind, the heartbreaking kind, the kind that makes your chest hurt just hearing it. "Helen." Just crying. Already grabbing my keys. "Where are you?" Her apartment, of course. 15 minutes later, I was there. I stopped at a 24-hour store first. Chocolate, ice cream, fries, every emergency breakup supply known to mankind. When Helen opened the door, my heart shattered. Mascara everywhere, hair a mess, eyes swollen, completely broken. The second she saw me, she burst into tears again. She left. That was all she said. 3 words. She left. I dropped everything and opened my arms. Helen practically crashed into me, and there we stood, in the middle of her apartment, at nearly 3 in the morning. While she cried into my shoulder, I stayed the entire night. Then the morning. Then most of the afternoon. We watched terrible movies, ate terrible food, talked, cried, talked some more. By evening, she finally looked a little better. Tired, but better. She rested her head against my shoulder, the same way she had 1,000 times before. Then she quietly said, "I don't know what I'd do without you, CK." My chest tightened, because she had no idea. No idea what those words did to me. I smiled anyway, because that's what I always did. Good thing you'll never have to find out. Helen smiled, closed her eyes, and fell asleep on my shoulder. Meanwhile, I sat there, completely in love with my best friend and absolutely doomed. A few years after the Mabel disaster, life settled down. Well, as settled as life could be when your best friend was Helen Parker. By 27, Helen had somehow become a banker. I still don't know how. This is the same woman who once put her phone in the refrigerator and spent 2 hours looking for it. The same woman who lost her glasses while wearing them. The same woman who called me in a panic because she thought somebody had stolen her car. She had parked it on the next street. Yet somehow people trusted her with money. A lot of money. The world is fascinating. As for me, I became an artist. I spent my days painting, sketching, and pretending I wasn't talking to myself. Helen claimed my apartment looked like a paint factory exploded. I claimed she had no artistic vision. Our friendship survived the disagreement. Barely. One Tuesday evening, I was working on a commission when my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Helen. Of course, the woman called me so often I was basically part of her phone plan. I answered, "What did you lose?" "I didn't lose anything." "That's suspicious." "CK, what?" "I met someone." I slowly closed my eyes. Not again. "Please tell me this isn't another woman you saw for 6 seconds and immediately decided to marry." It was more like 10 seconds. "Helen, I'm serious." I dropped my paintbrush. This was already sounding dangerous. "What happened?" The dramatic gasp she let out should have warned me. Instead, I asked. Big mistake, huge mistake, guys. When I tell you that woman spent 45 minutes telling me about a train ride, I mean 45 actual minutes. Apparently, she had been running late. Coffee in one hand, bag in the other, chaos in human form. Then somebody bumped into her. Coffee went flying, straight onto another woman. "Oh my God," Helen groaned over the phone. "I thought I was going to die. You survived. Barely." The woman had laughed. Instead of getting angry, instead of demanding dry cleaning money, instead of throwing the coffee back at Helen, which honestly would have been understandable, then they ended up sitting beside each other on the train, talking, laughing, exchanging numbers. By the time Helen finished telling the story, I knew 3 things. 1, the woman's name was Barbara. 2, Helen was already in trouble. 3, unfortunately, so was I. Friday evening, Helen appeared at my apartment carrying 3 dresses. 3. Pick one. No. CK. No. Pick one. I didn't even look up from my sketchbook. I refused to participate. Why? Because you're going on a first date. Exactly, which means no matter what dress I choose, you'll spend the next 3 hours changing your mind. Helen gasped. "You know me so well." I finally looked up. She was standing in my living room holding dresses against herself, spinning, modeling, posing, like she was auditioning for a reality show. I pointed to the blue one. There. "Really?" "Yes. Are you sure?" "No." 5 minutes later, she was still standing there. "Maybe the black one." I threw a cushion at her. She laughed. God, that laugh. Anyway, the date happened, and unlike most of Helen's romantic adventures, it actually went well. Really well. Then another date happened. Then another. Then another. A month later, Barbara was practically glowing every time Helen mentioned her. 2 months later, they were officially dating. 3 months later, I met her. Now here's the annoying part. I liked her. I really wanted to hate her. Would have made my life easier. But Barbara was charming, funny, confident, the kind of person who made conversations feel effortless. She treated Helen well, made her laugh, remembered little details. And for the first time in a very long time, Helen looked happy, really happy, the kind of happy that sneaks up on you when nobody's looking. One Saturday, we all met for lunch. Halfway through the meal, I excused myself to use the restroom. When I came back, Helen was laughing so hard she nearly knocked over her drink. Barbara was watching her, smiling, not talking, just watching. Like Helen was the most fascinating thing in the room. My chest tightened, not because Barbara was doing anything wrong, because she wasn't. Because for the first time, I had competition, real competition. And that was a problem, because Helen wasn't crushing anymore. She was falling hard. I didn't realize just how hard until a few weeks later, when she called me at 11 at night. Not to tell me about her day, not to complain about work, not to ask me what I wanted for lunch tomorrow, just to tell me, Barbara said she loves me. I stared at my ceiling. For a long moment, I couldn't think of anything to say. Then I smiled, because that's what best friends do. "Are you happy?" The answer came instantly. Yeah. A small laugh escaped her, the kind that happens when somebody's trying and failing to hide their happiness. "Yes, EK, I really am." And hearing that should have been enough. It should have. The problem was, for the first time in my life, I was starting to wonder what would happen if Helen found somebody she loved more than she needed me. And that thought terrified me. You know what's funny? For years I thought losing Helen would happen all at once. Some dramatic moment, a big fight, a betrayal, a disaster. Turns out I was wrong. Losing someone happens quietly, one missed phone call at a time. The first time I noticed something had changed was a Friday. Now Friday was sacred. Everybody knew that. Friday belonged to me and Helen. Movie night, takeout, bad decisions, good conversations. The rules were simple. One of us picked the movie. The other complained about the choice. Then we watched it anyway. It had been our tradition for years. So when Friday arrived, I showed up at Helen's apartment carrying Chinese takeout and unreasonable confidence. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again. Still nothing. Then my phone buzzed. Helen, OMGCK. I'm so sorry. That was suspicious already. Helen only used all caps when she was excited. Or panicking. Helen, I completely forgot. Forgot, guys. This woman once remembered the name of my childhood goldfish, but she forgot Friday movie night. I stared at the message. Then another one arrived. Helen, Barbara surprised me with dinner. Helen, rain check? For a moment, I just stood there, holding enough food for 2 people. Outside an apartment nobody was home in. Like an idiot. A complete idiot. Eventually I texted back, have fun. Helen replied, you're the best. Yeah, that heart emoji nearly took me out. The weeks after that got worse. Not dramatically. Quietly. Which somehow hurt more. Helen still called, just less. Helen still texted, just slower. Helen still loved me. I knew she did, but for the first time in our lives, I wasn't her favorite person to tell things to. Barbara was. One evening, I was working on a painting when my phone lit up. Helen calling. I smiled immediately. See? Pathetic. I answered before the second ring. Hey, guess what? There she is. I got promoted. I sat up. What? I got promoted. I nearly dropped my pencil. Helen. For the next few minutes we celebrated. Then she said, I have to go. I blinked. What? Barbara is waiting. Oh, just one word. Oh, 40. Nothing more. Then she was gone. The call lasted 3 minutes. 3. Do you know how insane that is? Helen once spent 27 minutes explaining a dream she had about a dancing goat. 3 minutes was a personal attack. By the 3rd month of their relationship, Barbara was everywhere. Barbara likes this. Barbara thinks that. Barbara said something funny. Barbara wants us to try that restaurant. Barbara. At one point, I genuinely considered charging rent. Then one Saturday afternoon, everything changed. I was at the mall buying art supplies, nothing exciting, paint, brushes, canvas, the glamorous life of an artist. I was walking past a coffee shop when I saw her. Barbara. At first I smiled. I almost walked over. Then I stopped, because Barbara wasn't alone. She was sitting across from another woman, a beautiful woman, close enough that their knees touched beneath the table, the kind of close that made my stomach twist. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was a friend, a cousin, a coworker, a client, any number of perfectly innocent explanations. Then the woman reached across the table, and Barbara took her hand. Not casually, not briefly. She held it. The same way I'd seen her hold Helen's. The same soft smile appeared on Barbara's face, the one Helen couldn't stop talking about. My pulse started pounding. No way. I stepped behind a pillar before either of them noticed me. The rational part of my brain was still searching for explanations. The rest of me already knew. Then Barbara leaned forward. The woman leaned forward too, and when they kissed, every explanation disappeared. I stood there frozen, staring, my heart hammering, because suddenly I knew 2 things. First, Barbara was cheating, and second, Helen was going to be devastated, and somehow, the hardest part wasn't what I'd seen. The hardest part was knowing Helen probably wouldn't believe me. I should have told Helen the same day, the same hour, the same minute, the second I saw Barbara kissing another woman. Instead, I spent 2 days arguing with myself. Because here's the thing. Once you tell your best friend her girlfriend is cheating, there's no undo button. No takebacks. No forget I said that. Either she believes you, or she doesn't. And somehow, that terrified me. Not because I was scared of Barbara. I wasn't. I was scared of seeing that look on Helen's face. The one people get when their heart breaks. I'd seen it before. After Mabel. After every failed relationship. After every disappointment. And somehow it never got easier. By the second day, I couldn't take it anymore. Helen deserved to know. So after work, I drove straight to her apartment. The entire drive, I rehearsed what I was going to say. Every version sounded awful. Every version sounded cruel. Every version ended with Helen crying. By the time I got there, my stomach was in knots. I knocked. A few seconds later, the door swung open. And there she was, Helen Parker, annoyingly beautiful. The kind of beautiful that made you forget what you were saying halfway through a sentence. She was wearing one of my old hoodies. She'd stolen it 3 years ago and refused to give it back. CK, a smile immediately lit up her face. And just like that, the guilt got worse. Because she looked happy. The kind of happy that made me want to turn around and go home. Pretend I'd never seen anything. Pretend Barbara wasn't a lying, cheating snake. Unfortunately, everything wasn't fine. Helen stepped aside. Come in. The apartment smelled like vanilla candles. A movie was playing quietly in the background. Helen flopped onto the couch. I stayed standing. That got her attention immediately. She looked up. Okay. What? You're being weird. I'm not. You are. You're standing like somebody died. I laughed. A nervous laugh. Not a funny laugh. The kind of laugh that happens when your life is falling apart. Helen frowned. The smile slowly disappeared from her face. What's wrong? There it was. The moment. No more delaying. I took a breath. Then I said it. Helen. Now she looked concerned. What happened? I swallowed. Barbara is cheating on you. The room went completely still. For a second, Helen just stared at me, blinking, processing, trying to figure out if she'd heard me correctly. Then she stood up. Slowly. Excuse me? I saw her. Huh? At the mall. Helen's eyebrows pulled together. I pushed forward before I lost my nerve. She was with another woman. Nothing. No reaction. No shock. No heartbreak. Nothing. Which was strange, because this was Helen. Helen cried when cartoon animals got separated from their parents. This should have shattered her. Instead, she just stared. Then she laughed. A short laugh. Because it means something is wrong. Wow. My heart sank. Helen? Wow. Then she shook her head, like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. And that's when she said it. Barbara was right. I froze. What? She told me you'd do this. The words hit me so hard I genuinely forgot how to respond. For a second I just stared at her, certain I'd heard wrong. What are you talking about? Helen folded her arms. The movement felt defensive, protective, like she was shielding somebody, and that somebody wasn't me. Barbara told me you saw her. What? Yesterday. My stomach dropped. Of course she got there first. Barbara wasn't stupid. She knew exactly what she'd done, and she knew exactly who would tell Helen. Me. She said you'd make up some story. My jaw literally dropped. Make up? She told me you'd say she was cheating. I stared at her, completely stunned, because suddenly everything made sense. The lying witch already had a plan. Helen! Stop. No. CK. For the first time all evening, my voice came out sharp, because now I was angry. Not at Helen, at Barbara, that manipulative little... I took a breath, tried again. Helen, I literally saw her kiss another woman. Helen immediately threw her hands into the air. There, what? That's exactly what Barbara said you'd say. She pointed at me. Do you know what she told me? My chest tightened. What? She said you've never liked her. I laughed. A real laugh this time, because the statement was ridiculous. Helen. No, listen, Helen. She said you've been waiting for us to fail. That one wasn't funny anymore. The laughter died instantly. What? She said every time we're happy, you look unhappy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't Barbara defending herself. This was Barbara attacking me, and somehow it was working. Helen. She said you don't want me moving on. My stomach twisted. That's insane, is it? The question caught me off guard. For the first time all evening, something ugly crept into Helen's voice. Not anger, not yet, doubt. And that hurt more than anger ever could, because doubt meant Barbara had gotten inside her head. And once somebody gets inside your head, getting them out is difficult. I stared at my best friend, my person, the girl who'd known me for 20 years, the girl who knew my coffee order, my birthday, my worst fears, my dreams, everything. And for the first time, I had the horrible feeling she wasn't seeing me. She was seeing the version of me Barbara had created, and that terrified me. Because if Helen started believing Barbara's version, I wasn't sure what happened next. I wish I could tell you I handled the situation with grace, wisdom, maturity, the emotional intelligence of a well-adjusted adult. I did not. I was tired, angry, confused, and watching Barbara turn my best friend against me was bringing out feelings I didn't know what to do with. Helen. I rubbed both hands over my face. Just listen to me for 1 second. I have listened. No, you've listened to Barbara. The moment the words left my mouth, Helen's expression hardened. That wasn't a good sign. You don't get to do that. Do what? Talk about her like she's some villain. I actually laughed, not because anything was funny, because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Helen, she cheated on you. You keep saying that, because it's true. No, yes. No, she didn't. The word echoed through the apartment, louder this time. stronger, the first crack in something that had always felt unbreakable. I stared at her. She stared right back. Neither of us backing down. Neither of us willing to give an inch. For the first time in 20 years, we were standing on opposite sides. And I hated it. God, I hated it, Helen. My voice softened. I tried again. I would never lie to you. Something flickered across her face. For one brief second, I thought I was getting through to her. Then she looked away, and the moment disappeared. Barbara wouldn't lie to me either. That hurt. Not because she trusted Barbara, because she trusted Barbara over me. Over me. 20 years. 20 years. And somehow we were here. You've known her for 4 months. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Helen's head snapped up. What? You've known her for 4 months. What's that supposed to mean? It means I've known you since we were 7. The room went quiet. Helen, look at me. She didn't cheat on me, CA. Stop this nonsense. Helen. What? You know me. The words came out rough, more emotional than I intended. You know me better than anybody. Helen, if I was going to lie to you, why would I pick this? That finally got her attention, because it was true. What did I gain from this? Nothing. If anything, I was risking everything, my friendship, her trust, us. For a second she looked uncertain, and I saw it, a crack. Tiny, but there. Then Barbara's voice won again. I could practically see it happening. The poison she'd planted, the doubts, the suspicion, everything. Helen crossed her arms, defensive, closed off. Do you know what I think? What? I think you've never given Barbara a chance. What? I think you decided you didn't like her from the beginning. That would have been funny if it wasn't so insulting. Helen? No. She shook her head. You do this every time. My stomach dropped. Every time? What was that supposed to mean? Every time I get close to somebody. I stared, completely stunned. Excuse me? You always find a reason. Now I was angry. Actually angry. Mabel was controlling. Mabel wasn't all bad. Barbara is cheating. You don't know that. I saw it. The words exploded out of me. Before I could stop them, the room fell quiet. Helen looked shocked. Because I never yelled at Helen. Never. Not once in 20 years. Then she laughed. A short, bitter laugh. And somehow that hurt more. You see? See what? This what? You're acting crazy. The word hit me like a slap. Crazy, crazy. The woman who crossed the city at 2 in the morning when she was heartbroken. The woman who sat beside her hospital bed after surgery. The woman who helped her move apartments. Helped her through breakups. Celebrated every promotion. Every birthday. Every victory. Crazy. I stared at her, trying to figure out when everything went wrong, trying to figure out how we got here. Then Helen said the sentence that shattered whatever was left of my patience. Maybe Barbara was right. My chest tightened. What? Maybe you're jealous. The world seemed to stop. Not dramatically, just enough for those words to land. Jealous? I laughed. Not because it was funny, because if I didn't laugh, I might cry. Jealous? Yes. I looked away, because suddenly I couldn't look at her. Not while she was saying things like that. Not while she was looking at me like I was some jealous ex instead of her best friend. You really think that? I don't know. The answer came too quickly. She just sounded angry, and hurt, and scared, which made everything messier. I think maybe you don't like sharing me. That one hurt too. Not because it was entirely wrong. Because it wasn't. But not for the reasons she thought. God, if she knew how many nights I'd spent wishing I could tell her the truth. If she knew how many relationships I'd watched her walk into while pretending my heart wasn't breaking. If she knew, but she didn't. So all she saw was me, standing between her and happiness. And I hated that. I hated it so much. Helen. My voice was quiet now. Exhausted. I have never once tried to stop you from being happy. You think I enjoyed helping you pick outfits for your dates? You think I enjoyed listening to you talk about women you liked? You think I enjoyed being the person who helped you get over every breakup? Because the truth was finally slipping out. I have always wanted what was best for you. For a second, something softened in her eyes. Then she looked away, again. And that was the moment I knew. I'd lost. Not forever. Maybe. Maybe not. But tonight, I had lost. Barbara had won. At least for now. Then Helen said the one thing she should never have said. The thing I don't think she even meant. The thing anger pulled out of her. I finally found someone who chooses me first. The words hit like a punch. And you can't stand it. That one hurt, really hurt. Because she had no idea. No idea how many times I had chosen her first. Over work, over sleep, over relationships, over myself. For 20 years. And somehow she'd never noticed. I swallowed hard, then nodded. Slowly, trying to keep myself together, trying to stop my voice from shaking. Okay, Helen, no. I held up my hand. For the first time in my life, I stopped her. Okay, the anger drained out of me all at once, leaving nothing behind, just exhaustion. You don't believe me. Keck, you don't. The silence that followed said everything. I nodded again, then grabbed my keys, my jacket, my dignity, whatever scraps were left. Where are you going? I looked at her, and for the first time in 20 years, I didn't know what to say, because she was my person, my best friend, my favorite human, and somehow she had chosen a woman she'd known for months over me, so I settled for the truth. I hope for your sake I'm wrong. Her face changed, just a little. The first real crack all evening, regret. But it came too late. I walked to the door, opened it, then paused. Not because I wanted to stay, because I needed her to know one thing, one last thing. I turned around. Helen. She looked up. I would never hurt you. For a moment, her eyes widened, just slightly. Then I left. The door closed behind me, and for the first time since I was 7 years old, I drove home without texting Helen, without calling Helen, without knowing if we'd speak tomorrow, or next week, or ever again. Quick question before we continue. Do you think CK should have told Helen about the cheating, or did she do the right thing by protecting the friendship? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know. And that is where we leave you tonight. I know. We will be back very soon with the next episode. And I promise you, it only gets deeper from here. If this episode got you, if you felt something, drop your favorite moment in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you are watching this for the very first time, welcome. Welcome to the family. Subscribe. Turn on your notifications so you never miss what happens next, because nothing is ever what it seems. And nobody falls the way these two will fall. Before you go, I have something special to share. Channel memberships are now open. If you're enjoying these stories and want even more content, consider joining the channel. Members get early access to new videos, exclusive perks, custom stickers and badges, and special members-only content you won't find anywhere else. Your support helps me create more stories and bring even bigger projects to life. So if you'd like to support the channel and unlock some awesome extras, click the join button and become part of our members family today. Thank you so much for watching. It genuinely means everything. Until next time, stay brave, stay curious, and remember, the most powerful love in any world is the kind that chooses you back. See you in episode 2.